we'll see. All right, so like you saw, I just wet this with water first. And then I went back in with my color. I'm using this light green, permanent light green. I'm just dropping it into that wet pool, basically a wet pool of paint. And maybe I'll make this kind of look like grass or something right here, I don't know. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of a darker green, made from a different paint, like that. Just, especially against where he's lightest on his lips, I'm going to put some dark there. And maybe drop in a little ultramarine blue and some golden, green golden, I think the color is. Drop in a little bit more yellow here. That'll make it match. This spot right here has a lot of green golden in it, so. Don't you love the soundtrack? Are you dancing, Parker? Nice dancing, Bubby. Alright. Well, I got my paintbrush wet. I might as well go in and put a few of these details in that I can. Let's get a tree trunk. I think I want to get this area a little bit more darker, so I'll just go in and put some clear water. I want it all to be soft and nice. I think in general the softer you can get watercolors, the prettier they are. Just a personal opinion, but I do like that. Definitely want this area right in here more dark. Just kind of dot a little bit in here. That makes it have some nice contrast. Soften this edge with some wet water, wet water. I'm just going to soften this right here with some clear water, is what I meant to say. So I don't want that a hard line at all. And let's see. Do a little bit more detail in his eye. I think I need a smaller brush though. I need my super tiny 000. This is a 000 Winsor & Newton Series 7 Fine Sable. I really like these brushes, especially when you need a really nice point for this kind of detail work. Because basically you're working in millimeters here, and if you're lucky enough to still have the eyesight for it, which mine is quickly deteriorating, so who knows how long I'll be able to do this kind of work. But going back in with some clear water to soften this edge in here and put in some details. This is all darker area in here. Very delicate painting in through here. Gotta hold your mouth just right. I'm one of those people that when I'm trying to concentrate on something, I hold my mouth weird. And it's kind of embarrassing, but anyway. All right, so that added a little bit of definition to the eye, just putting in those little details. Yeah, I don't want to overdo it. That's always the fear that you're gonna overdo something at this stage in the painting. It's not desirable. I'm just putting in some details. I'm looking back and forth from my painting to the reference photo a lot so that I don't get this wrong. In the actual picture, this area of the horse's mouth is quite dark, but I want it to pop out against that darker background. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what I think about leaving it light. Alright, so I'm just gonna continue working on this guy. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of darkness in here, just a little. Just to define his lower lip area. Bit of burnt sienna on my brush and just drop that in there to have a couple different colors in there. I'm just trying to put in like the finishing touches. Some of his mane standing up in here, so I'm gonna try to bring that out. Using a mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine for all the different colors of this horse. It's amazing all the different colors that you can get from just from mixing two colors. I'm working wet and wet here. harder to control the amount of water in your brush with such a small brush. Soften this edge. Putting a little bit of extra dark under that halter just to give it some depth and to show that there is a shadow underneath that halter. I'm going to do that over here too. It's kind of the underside of his halter right there. I'm really very happy with how this painting has come out. Some glazes in here. This is wet on dry. You just want to add some of the neck definition. And just put some burnt sienna on my brush. This is all quite dark in here too in the original picture, so I'll go ahead and darken that up a little. And while it's wet, I can drop some more paint in without it being too hard-edged. I continually refer back to my original picture. Just trying to get some muscle definition in this pretty baby. I'm gonna put a bunch of clear water all in here so I can work on some more muscle definition. Getting some ultramarine and burnt sienna on my brush. I'll put in that little area there. I think the musculature in this horse is just really quite lovely. So I do want to try to capture that as much as possible and give it some nice definition. Again, putting clear water because I want this to be kind of a smooth layer coming up. Clear water here just to blend all this together. Just such a lovely, lovely horse. This is a yearling. For those of you that don't know too much about horses, a yearling obviously is a horse that is a year old. And usually they're quite awkward, and they can be, this is kind of the ugly phase of a horse's life. But this guy's looking pretty good, I have to say. I think he looks pretty darn good for a 2-year-old. It's already got some beautiful muscle tone. All right, that's looking good. Okay, so I think I'm getting somewhere here. I'm pretty happy with most of the body of the horse and just in general how everything looks. I think I want to put some texture in on the ground, nothing too ostentatious. Just a little bit to, you know, show he's kind of in a paddock, or he's on some sand, I guess. So I'm just basically using mud from my palette just to put a little bit of texture in the sand. And then I think what I'm going to do is push the fence back a tiny little bit by putting a nice light wash of ultramarine blue over the back fence. And what that'll do too is kind of pop his halter, so it'll bring him forward even more, and it doesn't take much. I'm just gonna use a touch, just a little bit. To push the background back and bring the horse forward. The next stage will be taking the mask off, putting in the final little details in the mane. And I think this will be pretty much done. In fact, let me just put a little bit of details in the mane. I don't have any mask in the mane, I don't think. I don't think any of that is masked. So I can go ahead and put some wisps in his mane just to get some more water in my brush. I'm using my rigger brush, as you can see. It's got a very long bristle on it. I use that for a lot of hair. And it's just gonna give some definition to his mane. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I think I'm gonna call this painting Bad Hair Day. Is that cute or what? I mean, they happen to the best of us, even this gorgeous Frisian yearling. Alright, not crazy about how this looks in here. I'm gonna put some water on it. Alright, let that dry. So I just want to discuss what I'm going to do to finish this little painting off. I'm just going to put in tiny little details just to give it those finishing touches. And what I need to do first is rub off the masking, which I don't have a lot in this painting. Just a little bit on the halter. And I think I have some in the eye, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. And I've got some in the mane. And then I just put in the little finishing details. So I'm just going to make the holes in his halter a little bit darker, just to give it that little pop. And refine these little areas in his halter. This is all just really tiny little detail work. I actually added some highlights to his eyes that aren't in the real picture because that just brings a little bit extra sparkle that brings the painting alive when you're painting animals. I think it's fun how his mane turned out. It's kind of wild and woolly. Also, one of the things that I do in this stage is I use like a hard brush, usually one that you normally would use for oil painting, and I just do a few scrubs to soften some of the edges. But I don't think I really have any edges I really want to soften here. Maybe a little bit on this ear. Let me go ahead and do that. Just kind of make that ear a little softer. It's not really the main attraction. I'm going to darken the mane right in here and give it a little bit of texture, and also just kind of soften it up so it isn't the main point of interest. This area right here can be softened a little. Really, I need to go in and refine this a little bit more in here now that I look at it. It's funny for me. I always think I'm really close to getting done, and then I start this stage, and then I see all these little things that I want to refine even further, especially in his face. I'm just going to keep softening these little areas in his face. The muzzle of a horse is really soft, so I kind of like to capture that feel as much as possible. Just soften all that up, and I'm gonna lighten this area right here against this dark background, and at the same time soften that line between the background and his face. I always pay particular attention to around the eye area because it ends up kind of being the main focus of attention. So you want it to look soft and realistic. All right, so I think this is pretty much finished. I'm going to take it off the mat board and give it a little scan.